Good evening and welcome to Jenna, Ellis tonight. So, as much as the Democrats have been facing their existential crisis with their potential nominee being Joe Biden or someone else, the Republican National Party is also facing one of their own. So, coming out yesterday from the RNC has been this draft of a new platform that has watered down language on pro-life and also on same-sex marriage and really excised a lot of the social issues that particularly evangelicals and Catholics and Christians have really been pushing for, and Trump was known for in embracing that platform in 2016. So let's take a look at what the language said in 2016 versus what it says now. So this was the 2016 RNC platform, a text with respect specifically to pro-life. It says this: the Constitution's guarantee that no one can be deprived of life, liberty, or property deliberately echoes the Declaration of Independence's proclamation that all are endowed by their Creator with the inalienable right to life. Accordingly, we assert the sanctity of human life and affirm that the unborn child has a fundamental right to life which cannot be infringed. We support a human life amendment to the Constitution and legislation to make clear that the 14th Amendment's protections apply to children before birth. We oppose the use of public funds to perform or promote abortion or to fund organizations like Planned Parenthood, so long as they provide or refer for elective abortions or sell fetal body parts rather than provide health care. We urge all states and Congress to make it a crime to acquire, transfer, or sell fetal tissues from elective abortions for research. And we call on Congress to enact a ban on any sale of fetal body parts. And in the meantime, we call on Congress to ban the practice of misleading women on so-called fetal harvesting consent forms, a fact revealed by a 2015 investigation. We will not fund or subsidize healthcare that includes abortion coverage. That is a really strong stance, and it's specifically referring to Congress and the 14th Amendment. Now, listen to the 2024 platform that is much more concise and really watered down, even though it does give a little bit of an acknowledgement to the 14th Amendment. It says this: we proudly stand for families and life. We believe that the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States guarantees that no person can be denied life or liberty without due process, and that the states are therefore free to pass laws protecting those rights. Notice it doesn't say we demand that they do, they're free to. Goes on to say, after 51 years, because of us, that power has been given to the states and to a vote of the people. Again, no mention of Congress. But they conclude with this: we will oppose late-term abortion while supporting mothers and policies that advance prenatal care, access to birth control, and IVF fertility treatments. Now, I agree with the 2024 platform. I just think that the 2016 one was so much stronger. And a lot of people who are suggesting, well, we can't win an election if we are that firm on the stance for abortion. Well, we did in 2016 over Hillary Clinton. And why should it be that we will support, as conservatives, any party that's just a little bit more maybe to the right of the Democrats? No, that's not what we all signed up for and what we are supporting if we are truly principled conservatives. We should be demanding that the RNC go back to the 2016 platform. Here's what my friend Tony Perkins and FRC Action had to say as a statement in response. The 2024 platform is a concise statement of campaign priorities, but not a declaration of enduring principles for a political party. They're totally right. Unfortunately, the choreographed process, which allowed no amendments to be discussed or voted upon, was unbecoming of a party that champions free speech and due process. Delegates were given the platform this morning when they entered the convention hall with no time to review, much less the 72 hours that Republican lawmakers call for in the House of Representatives. Delegates were only given a few minutes of discussion before the quote-unquote debate was ended and a vote was taken. Ironically, the document calls for a vigorous defense of free speech and the end of government censorship. Deprived of the opportunity to discuss amendments to the draft platform document, we have submitted a minority report to supplement that campaign's platform. The submission of a minority report is further evidence that the pro-life movement will continue to advance pro-life principles and policies at every level of government. The right to life transcends other political debates and the interests of any and all political parties and candidates. It is truly the right without which no other right has any meaning. It's so true. So let's bring in our legal eagles to discuss. Our legal eagles today are Gerard, who is the senior counsel for the Lawfare Project, and Ron Coleman, who is the host of the Coleman Nation podcast and an attorney with the Dillon Law Group. So, gentlemen, for purposes of this discussion, a lot of the reaction and response in the last 24 hours since this draft platform that has been passed by the committee has been, well, the Dobbs decision did give abortion regulation back to the states. No mention of Congress is correct. And if you want to follow the Constitution, then you'll see that this is only and solely a state issue. But that's not what the Dobbs decision held. It said that the right for abortion regulation, or the power rather, is returned to the people through their elected representatives. That includes Congress, and the 14th Amendment specifically provides for that. So, Gerard, let's start with you. I mean, what should people really understand about what Congress's power actually is under the Constitution if we are talking about abortion regulation at the federal level?
First, people need to understand the Roberts Court, and the Roberts Court, since he became Chief Justice, has tended to send things back to the legislature to take action on, informing decisions on the basis that it's not for the courts to make the laws, it's for the courts to interpret them. And that has been very consistent. So the problem with Roe v. Wade is that it was not something that was passed by legislature. It was a judicial fiat. It was law made by courts rather than law made by elected officials. And that takes us back to who has the power to make these laws. Right now, it's the states, but it's also Congress. Congress can legislate abortion. Congress can get into the business of legislating as it is supposed to, as it's meant to. And this is not an issue that would be prescribed by the 14th or other amendments. It's just a matter of carefully justifying the basis of a law and defining it to fit the contours of what Congress can do. And again, Congress can act. They just have not done so in decades.
Yeah, and I think really, Ron, I mean, it's because there is no consensus at Congress. And if the Democrats are in control, they're going to try to basically codify Roe versus Wade. Joe Biden is very clearly and openly running on that proposition. So why is it that Donald Trump and the Republican Party is afraid to stand up firmly and say, no, we want to have abortion regulation, even if they agree on something like a heartbeat bill or 15 or 16 weeks? I would rather, as a pro-life conservative, at least see that, and then states can take it further if they want to.
Well, the consultants have sold the party leadership a bill of goods, which mirrors what you hear in the mainstream media, to the effect that abortion is what hurts Republicans with women. Abortion is the soft spot, so let's pull back on abortion. I think that's a mistake, not only because it's an unprincipled position to take. We make lots of compromises in politics, and we compromise with many principles. I think it's a mistake because I don't believe that these positions are going to get them any female votes that are decided on the abortion issue.
Yeah, and that's a really excellent point, that nobody is going to be reading this party platform who was all for Joe Biden and codifying Roe and go, oh, well, because Donald Trump and the Republican Party have watered this down and they're just giving it to the states, well, now I don't fear for democracy anymore. I'll go ahead and vote for Donald Trump. I mean, what realistically does this get them? Ron, I'll stay with you on this because, so many of the pro-Trump advocates right now on social media are claiming that if we stood as firmly in the Republican Party as we did in 2016, and that Trump did as much as we did in 2016, that he wouldn't win. And there's just absolutely no evidence for that.
Well, evidence is hard to come by in this kind of prognostication business. I do think it's a calculated move that was made with the best of intentions with respect to maximizing the chances of not only Donald Trump's election, but also down ticket votes. And perhaps that's really what motivated it. Perhaps those who pushed for this would take the view, you're right, Ron, we're not going to change any votes in the presidential election, but we're making it a little bit easier for Republican candidates in tight races, of which there are going to be many in the House, and to some extent in the Senate, don't have to outright disavow or play footsie with the GOP platform. It's not in and of itself an insane position.
Yeah, and Gerard, to Ron's point, this isn't just a presidential federal platform. This is even on statewide offices, and there have been a number of GOP uh, members who have ran in primaries and also for generals as well, who have been pro-choice that the GOP has acknowledged and even funded. So, do you see that it's problematic in terms of watering this down for statewide races as well, even if we take their position, okay, that the main battlefield for abortion regulation is on the state level?
Well, I think even at the state level, there are issues. We saw this in congressional races, in off-peak elections. We saw this in Long Island, for example, in a few months ago, to fill the seat that George Santos vacated. Abortion actually was an issue that was considered a top priority by a lot of voters. We see this statewide as well. And ultimately, the issue is that a conservative in, say, New York or Massachusetts is not necessarily the same as a conservative in Alabama or Texas or Arizona. There are different priorities. There are different ways of looking at things. And if you have a standard party line and you embrace it too staunchly, to adhere to it too rigidly, then you're risking votes in those places that don't agree or don't entirely see the party line as benefiting the local populace. So for local elections, you do have to be mindful of what the local people want, even if that is not something that the entirety of the party agrees on. You want to have some moderation. So that's why you do see issues. You do see this issue coming up in races in local elections a lot.
And we're going to have to take a hard break here, but we'll be back with our legal eagles for more of the controversy right after this.